In Genesis chapter 1 verse 26, God said, "Let us make man in our own image and in our likeness." And the purpose was that you and I will have dominion, that we will rule over. And one of the beautiful things is, when God created man, He did not speak. He actually created us. He formed us. As if God just got down on His knees on the ground. He got His hands dirty and He formed man out of the dust and He breathed man into a living being. And we are unique, not just because God created us, handcrafted us, but God made us in His own image and in His likeness. What does that really mean when we say in His image and in His likeness? Well, this scripture was not written in 21st century. It was written thousands of years ago, before we had camera or we had smartphones. So the initial readers of the scripture would have had better understanding of this than we do. In those days, the rulers and the people who were in authority had their images carved. So images always represented power and authority and governing and ruling. So when God said, "Let us create man in our own image and our likeness," God was referring that we will be representing Him, we will rule, we will have power, we will have authority. God did not create slaves. We know when man decided to choose what is good for himself, he rebelled against God and sinned, and therefore he was chased out of God in the garden, from the garden. But that's not where the story ends. God does not give up on mankind. God did not want to destroy everything that He had ever created and say, "Okay, that's it. I'm going to start all over again and just completely wipe everything out." God didn't. God always believes in restoring and bringing life back, even from the chaos. And that's what God did. And even when God pronounced judgment on Adam and Eve, He promised deliverance. He promised restoration. And that's what we see in the Bible. God's plan has not changed for you, for me, or for anybody. God's plan always stands, and His plan is always a plan A. There isn't a plan B. Today, if you are wondering what is God's plan for me, and His plan has been always the same for you, it has never changed. In Jeremiah 29, God says, "For I know the thoughts I have for you. I have a plan, not to harm you, but to prosper you, to give you a hope, to give you a future." So God has the same plan for you and me as He always had. It has not changed. So what is that purpose? What is the plan? In 1 Peter, we read God says that He has chosen us as a royal priesthood and a holy nation. What does that mean? This is a general purpose and plan for all of God's mankind. When it says royal priesthood, it's a twofold statement. Royalty suggests ruling, governing, having power, having authority. So when God created Adam and Eve, He gave them dominion and power and authority. And He hasn't changed. In the book of 1 Peter, we read again the same thing. God has called us as a royal priesthood. So He wants us to have power, authority, dominion. And secondly, we are not just called to rule, we are called to be priests. What is the role of a priest? Priest is someone who represents God, and at the same time He represents mankind before God. So God has called us as His children to represent Him in the world that we live in, and at the same time stand in the gap on behalf of the rest of the creation, rest of the mankind. Thirdly, a holy nation. What is a holy nation? Holy nation doesn't necessarily mean people who are very pious and perfect. That's not what it means. Holiness means being set apart, called out. So God has called out you and me so that we may live our lives set apart as holy people for Him, so that we may have dominion, rule, and power, and also at the same time we represent God wherever we find ourselves.
What's going on, guys? I'm the editor of this channel. As you can see, I am a Nets fan, but irrelevant anyways. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to give us a thumbs up, and if you have any suggestions or just enjoyed the content, drop us a comment down below because we always read them. And also hit that subscribe button and the bell button so you're always notified whenever any video comes out. See ya.